Now, in a related development, North Shore MP Samuel Okujeso-Ablakwa is calling for the setting up of a special parliamentary committee to monitor how the executive is dealing with the coronavirus situation. Speaking on the floor, he said such a move will ensure the situation is properly contained. Mr. Ablakwa is also asking the executive to urgently provide to Parliament requests for approval for the $100 million the president says will be dedicated to contain the virus. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins us via telephone with details. Now, Joseph, what reason has the Member of Parliament given, especially considering the fact that there is already a health committee of Parliament?
That's exactly the reaction he's been getting from other members of Parliament, including Alexander Fanyo-Markins of Futu, as well as Frank Anodomplov of Intawam, who are making the point that any such monitoring of the development with regards to the disease should go to the Health Committee in particular. We are waiting for the Deputy Majority Leader and the Speaker to pronounce on that any moment from now. But other MPs have also been raising other issues with regards to the coronavirus. The Member of Parliament for Tamale North made the point that there are some members of Parliament who've traveled in and out of the country for a while now who should undergo some form of screening so that then no one ends up infecting MPs broadly. Samuel George, who is the MP for Ningu Pram, has also been asking that sanitizers have been provided in the House, but he says what the House actually needs is an automated one so that then the sanitizers that's been distributed do not even become a source of infection. Ras Mubarak, the MP for Kumbungu, has also been asking that we should see a situation where, to a certain extent, public officials and members of the public who come around Parliament to observe proceedings should be stopped because these are not normal times, and maybe third parties who visit the chamber could end up infecting MPs one way or the other. And he's been asking that that also be looked at. There's also been a request from the minority spokesperson on health, Kwabena Minta-Kando, that the health minister shows up in the House and urgently updates MPs on the situation. But the Speaker has asked him to file an urgent question with regards to that. So the conversation has continued on the floor as far as the issue of the coronavirus is concerned, even as I speak.
Now, Joseph, the Speaker of Parliament directed earlier this week that members of Parliament should not shake hands anymore in view of this coronavirus outbreak. Have any members of Parliament found it difficult following this instruction, or they found other ways of exchanging pleasantries?
It actually looks so. Right on the floor, when MPs walk in and all, we see situations where they are not exactly shaking hands. They are exchanging elbow as a form of greeting. Some are holding both of their hands and pointing it to their faces and greeting the way that the Japanese do it as a way to exchange greetings so that then they wouldn't have to shake hands. But interestingly, right on the floor of Parliament, even as the conversation continued on the issue of the coronavirus, which is actually not the subject matter for discussion, Deputy Majority Leader Joseph only outlined the business of the House for next week, and the conversations that follow have been taken over by the issue of the coronavirus. We've seen a situation where the Ningu Pram MP, Samuel George, approached Zanoto Rollins, the Kwatikole MP, who tied a nose mask over his nose and also gave him a glove to wear on his hands. And Zaneto herself has also put that on. Even as they say, they are continuing the education to draw members of the public's attention to the coronavirus situation.
Now, we understand that the two persons who have been confirmed, are confirmed carriers of coronavirus, are in the diplomatic community. Have we heard or seen any member of Parliament or public official, Joseph, electing to self-quarantine as a result?
Not yet, at least right here on the floor of the House. And this is something that some of the MPs, including Al-Hassan Suhini as well as Ras Mubarak, are asking that the Speaker get done as far as MPs who've been out of the country for some time now are concerned. And when the two of them raised the issue, Al-Hassan Suhini actually mentioned some names of MPs who've been out of the jurisdiction over the last few days. And the Speaker in response said that the medical officer here in Parliament should liaise with the state officials so that then any possible screening could happen. But in terms of self-quarantining, none of the officials here in Parliament who have been out of the country for a while now have actually done that.
Thank you very much, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, for joining us with those updates. Expect more on the COVID-19 outbreak in later bulletins. Now, though, over 2 loud pubs in one neighborhood. That's the story of residents of Ogle Road here in Accra. They say excessive noise from the joints are robbing them of their sleep at night. Over 50 of them signed a petition to the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, calling for action. But that was 5 months ago. The residents are worried. PSA Nane Osafo has more in the following report.
Evenings. That's time when the tired world goes to rest. 10 p.m. sounds like this on Ogle Road, North Kaneshie, Accra. Loud music from 2 pubs compete for the attention of sleepy residents, but the fact is, they just can't sleep. In fact, the other smaller joints join the chorus. Residents are not pleased.
The noise is too much, very noisily in the night.
Ben McLean lives in one of the homes nearby.
It's around 4, the tempo is a bit lower, but getting to 10, 12, then they open the volume so high. So sleeping becomes very difficult.
Esla Akwoko's family has been here since the 60s.
It used to be a very nice, quiet residential area. But over the last 10 to 15 years, we've had this, and now it's just getting out of hand. For instance, I go to bed early. Then around 11, 12, you hear this boom, 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 boom. You wake up, you can't sleep again. For me, I have found a solution in the sense that I've had to install an AC, even that you hear the background. So when there are no lights, you can imagine.
Many others share tales of how the situation has affected them.
From Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, wow, you can't sleep. They start around 5 o'clock, sometimes to daybreak. And me, for instance, I do a shift work. So sometimes when I come in the night, I need rest to recover for the next day work. Like they are even behind my window.
Sometimes they do it to the point that your room is vibrated, you can't sleep. And back then I was a student, and during exams time I had to go and stay in a hostel or guest house just to be able to study, because the noise was too loud that sometimes even when you are making a call, some people ask, are you in a club or something like that, because the noise was that very bad. There are other people who are leaving their neighborhood because they feel they can't contain that noise.
While conducting interviews with residents, my team is approached by some persons believed to work in the pubs. The accused joined news of not getting their side of the story. I replied that I had only gotten started and would definitely speak to them. This took close to 2 hours.
Below and above, we can talk the person. So the ultimate part,
when it became clear that I would not be allowed to come down, Joy News left the premises. Back on the Ogle Road, one of the young residents tells me the effect the noise is having on her health.
I became very sensitive to noise as well, and any little noise just make me have headaches. Another thing is like you are frustrated, you can't sleep. You can't combine sleep with noise, especially you go through all the night and you come back, you want to just have enough rest or a good night's sleep, and you come home and it's even worse than work. Recently I treated stress and also depression and they were telling me, I remember when I went, they were like, it's because I'm not having enough sleep.
Over 50 residents petitioned the Environmental Protection Agency in October 2019, voicing their complaints with noise in the neighborhood. They tell me authorities never returned after one visit. country's law on noisemaking in section 296 clause 7 states that a person shall be liable to a fine not exceeding 200,000 cedis or 20 Ghana cedis if, after being warned to desist, he or she makes any loud or unseemly noise caused to the annoyance or disturbance of any person. Residents say they are still waiting for the law to work as sleep eludes them. For them, the real nightmares are not from dreams, but the lack of it.
It's a business they are running. Nobody's trying to stop their business. Do your business, respect us.
PSC Nanaya Osafo, Joy News.
Now, in December last year, the first and only educational channel Joy Learning was launched. The platform, according to its initiators, is geared towards improving access to quality learning in the senior high school level. Well, in less than 3 months since its inception, Joy News checks reveal some students are benefiting immensely from the project. Joy News' Henry Kwesi Bedu caught up with some students who have fallen in love with the channel, and here's his report.
It's almost 3 p.m. here at Old Dansoman, a suburb of Accra. We meet 16-year-old Patrick Osei Amwa, a first-year senior high school student of Accra Academy. He walks quietly among his friends in the neighborhood after school hours. In a few minutes, Patrick is home. The next item on his agenda is reading. At about 30 minutes, he enters their room. It's lesson time on the Joy Learning channel.
Technology brings inventions that solve problems, and it means that scientific knowledge also
Patrick
becomes
stays
relevant.
glued to the TV set,
Therefore, we can
listening
compare
carefully
the time when we
and
learn.
taking some notes. They are broadcasting one of his favorite subjects, science. Patrick tells me the lessons taught on the Joy Learning channel are complementing his studies in school.
I first saw the advertisement on Joy News and I decided that I should make an effort to watch the lessons. Okay. Like the e-maths, the physics, the chemistry, and some of the core subjects like science. I find them difficult to learn by myself. It helped me a lot. In fact, today when I received my elective maths exam paper, I felt glad. Because I was the one who was second in all the classes. We are 40. But in our class, I topped.
Mr. George Amwa says his son is currently very disciplined.
Firstly, it has, disciplined him, because when he closes from school, he would want to rush down to the house to come and watch. So he's made it a routine. So anytime he closes, unlike before when he would have to waste time in school, probably playing with friends around. Now, the moment he closes from school, he would want to come to the house to come and watch. That's one of the, the benefits. Secondly, I think he has improved academically.
Some good news there in relation to the Joy Learning channel. Do tune in. It's available on your multi-TV digibox. Coming up in business, banks urged not to put pressure on businesses to repay the loans in face of the coronavirus outbreak. Stay with us as Emmanuel Abuajiriafe explores those details.
Hello again, good afternoon to you. Welcome to Business. Now, government's borrowings must be used in targeted areas of the economy in order to keep the economy afloat during global health crisis. That was the view of the West Africa Regional Director for CATS International, Apia Kuma Kusi Adumaku. He was speaking on the business edition of the PM Express on Joy News last night. Mr. Adumaku also advised banks not to put pressure on businesses to recover their loans since businesses are in difficult times as a result of the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic.
We have this Fiscal Responsibility Act that put a cap on how much government can borrow in relation to the 5% from the fiscal deficit. Yes. And now this year, government is looking at 4.7% of the GDP. Yeah. I'm not very sure that we can meet that target. And in this crisis time, I think the government can go to Parliament to seek for derogation of that particular line, to allow government to go beyond that, because we are in crisis time, say that we can use those resources to salvage the economy. Because if we allow this cap to restrict us, I think we might end up sliding deep into a recession, if not even a depression. So I think that government needs to do that. But government borrowing should also be very targeted to sectors and businesses that they think that they can have a good impact, potential impact in sustaining the economy. And I also want to say that business have also gone for loans. And if, let's say, because of this crisis, you are not able to pay your loan, I think that there should be a measure saying that the banks will not come and attach your property because you have defaulted. That is a very key thing that, Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana needs to do to prevent businesses from being attacked by banks for not paying loans because of this crisis. Because certainly we are in different times, and when you are in crisis time, I think things are not business as usual. You need to come up with, extraordinary measures.
The Auditor General, Daniel Domelevo, has charged accountants to lead the fight against corruption through more diligent and transparent auditing of accounts. The Auditor General made a call in an interview with Joy Business on the sidelines of the 2020 induction ceremony of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana, in Accra.
According to a report by the United Nations Development Programme, corruption is costing Ghana's economy 13.5 billion cedis annually. The menace also cost the global economy $3.6 billion, a sum estimated to be about 5% of the global gross domestic product. According to the Auditor General Daniel Domelevo, accountants have a key role in curbing the corruption in both the public and the private sectors through the transparent and diligent audit of accounts.
The antidotes of corruption include transparency and accountability. That is, people knowing how their money was used, what they use it for, who is the beneficiary, etc. And this is done by producing financial statements to inform the public. If this is not done professionally, if this is not done according to standards and is not done regularly, what happens is that people take advantage of non-existence of transparency and accountability, and they use public funds. So when you produce this information and people are being held accountable, it deters other people from similar behaviors. And accountants are best placed to do this. You have them in the districts, we have them in the ministries, we have them everywhere else. And even in the private sector, every government, every institution, private or government, have got an accountant. And if they're able to discharge their work professionally, I think it will help fight corruption, be it in the public sector or in the private sector.
The Auditor General made a call when he spoke at the first 2020 induction ceremony at the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana in Accra. President of the Institute urged accountants to be guided by best practices to aid the fight against corruption.
We have standards and regulations guiding the accounting profession. So in fighting corruption, all boils down to going or abiding the regulations we have in the accounting profession. If you go by the ethics, the standards, and in line with everything you do as an accountant, I think the corruption itself will come out. It's not something you are going to hunt for like hunters, but you go for an audit and use the principles of auditing. Any error or any fraud will come out by itself. And that's what we are urging all accountants to go by the standards of the profession, but not by their own imaginations.
For Joy Business, Shilata Maklu reporting.
And that's business for now, but I'm coming back shortly with more business on the marketplace. Good afternoon to you.